Hello, everybody. My name is Randy Zuniga. I am the Director of Pre-Health Advising here at Chapman University. I appreciate you taking some time out today and coming to our session and learning about pre-health here at Chapman. We'll start just with a little bit about myself here. Uh, there we go. Like I said, I am the director. This is a new position. I am in the office of the provost, so I serve all of Chapman students, every college, and also alumni as well. A little bit about my background. I've been in pre-health advising for over a decade. I started as the inaugural team at USC in their pre-health advising office, and then I also worked at the medical school, helping med students find their pathway into residency and figuring out the right career path for them. And so that's kind of been my path in history in pre-health and medical education for the last 16 years. Um, I've been at Chapman since May of this year, and I am very excited to be here. I grew up in the area, I have a lot of friends that went to Chapman, so it was very much a homecoming of sorts, getting to be here and work with Chapman students and be part of the Chapman community now at this juncture in my career. Excuse me. I've had the privilege of getting to help train pre-health advisors all throughout Southern California, part of my national organization of National Advisors of the Health Professions, and then just some of my hobbies and interests. This is usually a bullet point I say for students, because a lot of students seem to like the entrepreneurship piece and kind of things that into now. And I was also very lucky in undergrad to play baseball, and I always kind of joke that I'm a little too old to play baseball now, so I just play golf. And if you want to play, just hit me up and we'll go a quick 9 holes one day. Uh, so I know we can't talk back and forth like I normally present this, but I kind of want to talk about pre-health. And I know the draw today is pre-med, and those names are synonymous in many respects. Pre-health is much more of an umbrella term, encompassing all different aspects of the pre-health pathways within the allied health field. So it could cover medicine, it could cover dentistry, it could cover physical therapy, optometry. It's all of those pieces. So as an example, these are some of the common career pathways as a pre-health advisor that I advise for and help students on their career trajectory. But today I'm only going to go over the 4-year roadmap of what it looks like to be a pre-med student at Chapman. So this isn't a end all be all. This is how it always works out. But I kind of want to just give an idea for context of how we advise students to be successful and how to make the most out of their time at Chapman and how to be the best prepared applicant going into the cycle. Now, in their first year, it's a very challenging transition coming from high school to undergrad. And so the goal, as we see here, is just working on doing well, establishing their GPA, taking the pre-health classes, getting a good understanding of the resources that campus has and what we have here to support students in their academic journey. And the other piece is building relationships with the professors. And that's a very important piece because it's something that's very unique to Chapman, is how invested professors are in each of their students' success, not just in the classroom, but in life after Chapman. And we see here going down to the second year, once we have a strong understanding of the demands of what it takes to do well in our science coursework, that's when we start figuring out, okay, how much extra time do I have now that I know how much time it takes me to study and prepare and do all of my classes? How much time do I have to add some volunteering or some research or some community involvement to my schedule? And it's not all those things all at once. We kind of break it up over, sometimes part of the first year, but mainly second, third, and fourth year. And so a lot of students will start with volunteering or research, depending on where their interests are, where their ambitions lie. Because some students are just a little more interested in getting exposed to research and what that could lead. Opportunities that could lead built from there. And then other students are more interested in getting involved in the local community to have a better understanding of, who is it that they're serving, who is it, or what resources are available to people, and how can they be of service and be a fabric of their community. And all these things, they're all very important, and they all kind of play a role in the development and growth and preparation of becoming a well-versed, um, pre-health student getting ready to apply to medical school. And so we've had now coming into our third, fourth year, I had 4 years of 3 or 4 years of taking the courses, getting experiences. Now we start thinking about, are we ready to apply? And in a perfect world, students would apply at the end of their third year. So that way they're in the application cycle their senior year and they start medical school right after they graduate. Statistically, that's not quite the path. The average age of the incoming first year in medical school is about 24, 25. So that means that people are taking time off after undergrad before they're going to medical school. So usually especially in California, because of how impacted we are with how many people are in California, how many people want to be in California, uh, I always suggest students take their full 4 years to get as many experiences as they can under their belt before they go into the application cycle. But every student's different. Every student has their own goals and things that uh, they rather do, like apply and start medical school at the end of their fourth year, or rather take a gap year, do some traveling, or do whatever have you before they apply for medical school. And so that's kind of what we start getting. Once we know when we're going to apply, that's when this section here starts coming into factor. Because if we're not going to apply at the end of our third year, then all this stuff gets pushed a year later or whenever it is that we're going to get ready to apply. Because we don't want to apply, sit for our MCAT too early and then it expire before we actually go into the cycle. We don't want to start getting our application together and then we don't apply. Because letters of recommendation need to be in that actual year that you're applying. So you don't get this recommendation in your second year and then apply 4 years later. Um, but yeah, so overall, this is kind of a 4 year roadmap. This is what we kind of want to talk about today. And so at this point, I have a couple people here today to help me facilitate with these questions that you guys might have submitted, or hopefully you've submitted some questions. I'll stop sharing screen here.
There are some questions coming in. Definitely keep them coming. My name is Jamie Garcia, one of the assistant directors of admission here at Chapman, and I am just going to be kind of moderating, or if there's any general admission questions, I can also touch on those. But I think so. One of the questions that someone has is, since you were just mentioning that frequent gap year that people are taking, do you think that is a better practice for students?
100%. Like the easy answer is yes. Um, The more nuanced answer is yes. And the context is if the average age is 25 years old of students going into medical school, then students that are in their junior year, they're usually what, 20, maybe 21. They just can't compete with someone that has 5 extra years of experience on them. It's a little more difficult. So taking that extra fourth year, getting that more experience, or even a year after that, just gives them more experience, exposure to the human experience that they can better relate with people, wide ranges of people. And have more it's not maturity, but we think about the 17 core competencies, just more time to develop proficiency and showcase your proficiency in these core competencies that medical schools assess students on as far as their readiness and ability to do well in medical school.
Awesome. And why, or yeah, what motivated Chapman to add this position in? And then I guess we haven't really seen a class of students being accepted since we've added your role. But have you noticed any new trends with students since this role has been added?
So I can give a little bit of historical context. There was a pre-op advisor that was at Chapman for a few years, a colleague of mine that I actually know, uh, who left recently. Position changed, and that's kind of what I have now. But uh, I know that before she was here, I don't remember. I want to say the numbers were kind of in line with the national average. National average for matriculation is around 48% of students applying. You have, I think 40 or 50,000 people applying for 22,000 or 23,000 seats nationally. So it's a pretty competitive landscape, and Chapman fell right in that line with the pre-health advisor, Dr. Crispin, who's again someone that I've known for a long time, even early in my career. She sat on some panels for me when she was director of admissions back in the day. I saw that the Chapman matriculation acceptance rate for Chapman students was as high as I think 85 or 90%. when students use pre-health advising services.
Wow, that's amazing. As a Chapman grad that had a lot of friends in the pre-med kind of field that have gone on to medical school and now their residencies, hearing those numbers, I'm like, wow, they're so impressive. That's awesome to hear. So you mentioned the percentages, but do you happen to know, this is kind of a multi-part question. How many students apply to medical school each year and how many get admitted? And then where are these students getting admitted and entering if there's any frequent institutions? And then what their majors were.
You're gonna have to walk me through the questions again. So
Totally, I can do that.
numbers wise, I don't know that I have specific number of students that matriculated
Mhm.
um, from Chapman. I only know my numbers from where I was at previously, which are not helpful in this context. Um, as far as like where students matriculate, it's actually a lot more. It's not like there's a feeder system or anything like that. What we look at is mission value alignment when we're curating a list. So not every student's going to have the same, 15, 20 schools on their list because their values are all going to be very different. And so that's kind of the consideration that you have to have when curating your list and finding the best chance of matriculation because we already go through, making sure GPA is there, making sure MCAT's there, and then we go through making sure that the experiences hit on the points that are the most important to the student and showcase the core competencies. Now, what medical schools are going to align with each of these students is going to depend on the student's value system and what they want out of their medical school experience. So we have schools like, ironically, WashU in St. Louis and USC that offer medical Spanish because St. Louis has a 40,000 Spanish speaking population. If that's something that's very important to the student, if it's being and working in those communities and working uh, at a school that offers medical Spanish, then those are probably like two schools that will be on their list with a number of other schools. But say we have a student that is from the Central Valley, is much more in line with rural medicine or small town medicine or like smaller communities, that's going to change their list and the type of experience that they're going for, whether in medical school. So it's hard to say like, oh, these are the schools that love Chapman students. It's more so they're going to love Chapman students. It's finding the right schools that fit for the student experience. It's not just like, are we good enough? It's who has the right experience for my experiences to give us the best symbolic relationship forward.
Awesome. And then this other question is kind of the same as the last portion of that question, which was major, common majors that you see, and if you have any advice between choosing like biology versus health sciences with the public health track, anything like that.
Uh, I don't think there's a big difference. What you'll notice nationally is that health science is really more aligned with public health at other institutions. At Chapman, our health science is very core science. Like it has almost half of the same bio major requirements as a biology major, which is not normal at any other in any other institution of my contemporaries, especially when they talk about health science. So in that regard, I think it's kind of depends on the student. When we're thinking about medical school, medical schools don't care about the major, medical schools don't care about the minor. So it really comes down to like what does the student want out of their time at Chapman? And so what I might suggest students look at is what research is happening in Schmidt, where biology is housed, what research is happening in Crane, where public health and health science is housed. Which one is more interesting? Because both are going to give us the prereqs. And so say if there's an instance where a student really just loves peace and justice studies, or they love sociology, which is in Wilkinson, and they want to do research in those areas. Well, we have a minor, a chemistry minor that gives us, I think, 80% of the prereqs as part of your curriculum, and then you just take the other remaining bio classes as your electives, and you're just as qualified to go to medical school as anyone else. It's really just hitting the prereqs.
That's awesome. Um, what is the average range for MCAT scores and kind of where does Chapman fall in that range?
I think the most recent ones, I've seen numbers prior to pre-health advising, which I think was closer to 500, and after pre-health advising, which was closer to 509. And our goal now is to help students make sure we are getting 510 or higher with assessing our curriculum and making sure that we're preparing students and getting the right courses in their course plan.
Awesome. What kind of experiential or educational things are the students that are taking a gap year during that time?
It varies. I've had students that do Teach for America. I've had students that worked in the family business for a year. I've had students that were taking classes. A lot of times the gap year can be purpose driven because there's some things that students maybe focused only on academics in undergrad, didn't do any of the extracurriculars, and they want to get those experiences in a gap year, or vice versa. Maybe they were spreading themselves too thin, didn't perform as well in the classroom, and so now after they graduate, they're taking what's called as a post-bac or some type of academic record enhancer program to improve upon their experiences. Now, I'm speaking generally, not specifically of Chapman students, just because I haven't had any just yet. But that's usually how students spend their gap years. And it could be working, you know, from EMT positions to uh, any type of job. Like really, it comes down to how can you showcase your proficiency in these core competencies with that job.
Absolutely. Um, is there something that students can do in the summer between high school and their first year at Chapman that can help build them towards this pre-health track, and just kind of generally expand their knowledge, their background to prep them for this program?
Uh, Starting from high school, not too much. I think that the assessments are going to be self-reflective. And what I would think about is, what was my high school curriculum? Am I doing a science major? And if I'm not doing a science major, does it make sense for me to take two or three sciences in this first semester? Should I dial it back? What's the right um, course load for me to find success and meet my timeline goals? That's usually the big considerations that we want to have coming in. Now, if students are incredibly ambitious and they want to be volunteering, they want to be getting involved in local community work, that is absolutely fine. Uh, but if it comes at the detriment of their performance in the classroom, it's something that we don't want to prioritize in the first year.
Absolutely. Um, does Chapman, oh no, where'd the question go? There we go. Does Chapman have any relationships with med schools or colleges that focus on research?
That I actually don't know if that might exist. I know that there are local hospitals and clinics like UCI and St. John, St. Joseph's, and then Chalk, where students will have research opportunities or clinical volunteer opportunities. As far as research, I do know that Chapman has a number of initiatives and new initiatives for funding research happening here on campus. As far as off campus, I'm not entirely sure if there's relationships established for research specifically.
Awesome. Yeah, and so Chapman is an R2 research institution now, so we do have all those yeah, all the different funding going towards our students. We want our students to have those research opportunities on campus, so that's great to hear. Um, what are some extracurricular activities that pre-med students at Chapman are currently involved with? And how do Chapman Medical School applicants compare to applicants from other local schools?
So some of the things that students at Chapman are involved with are a lot of campus organizations. We have quite a number of pre-health organizations that I've been working with and partnering with to bring different events to campus. So uh, that's the local. Another popular thing around Chapman is a lot of students like to, well, because we have a PA school, because PA schools require clinical hours. A lot of PA students will go through and get their certification as an EMT, medical assistant, or work in some clinical capacity, because PA requires anywhere between like 2 to 3,000 hours of paid clinical experience before you're eligible to apply to PA school. Um, and that has definitely bled into the culture here at Chapman, where a lot of students will do those same things to gain clinical experiences. A requirement? No. But is it a good experience? I'm absolutely sure it is. But really, it comes down to making sure we can uh, be reflective in those experiences, in those interactions, and showcase our proficiency of the core competencies. And those core competencies, just because I know I keep saying it, they go into like cultural competence, they go into social competence, communication, leadership. Um, there's I don't have all 17 memorized, and I apologize, but some are on like around science, some are in research, some are interpersonal, like your ability to work through problems, your ability to show capacity for improvement. And so when we think about these core competencies and we reflect on our experiences, the experiences don't matter as much as well as the intention behind them. So once students find places that they really find their people, they really want to be a part of this organization for the long haul, then the conversation is, what are the opportunities here? What do we recognize as places that you can grow within this organization? How can you contribute? How can you show up and challenge yourself and ultimately showcase your proficiency in these core competencies?
Absolutely. Um, for again, going back to that gap year situation, um, does the gap year need to be something substantial like that? Or if a student feels confident in how they performed, but they're just feeling like they need to take a little bit of a break, and
Yeah.
maybe travel, is that a good use of time?
Absolutely, 100%. I had one student knocked everything out the park while they're in undergrad. They graduated, they took a one-way flight to Australia, and they decided to just work minimum wage jobs. Now, mind you, this was, years ago, minimum wage in Australia was significantly higher than it is in the US. And he just kind of surfed every beach around like Northern Australia. And then once he was ready, he saved up the money to fly home and kind of got back into the swing of things and ended up going, I want to say even to school in New York or Pennsylvania. I forget where he went, but yeah, absolutely fine.
That's awesome. What kind of one-on-one support does the pre-health team provide? Are meetings required or are they recommended?
They're all recommended. We don't have any required meetings. We are a supplemental service, right? Technically a tertiary if we think about the faculty advisors, the academic advisors that are here to help students support students in their academic journeys and meet their graduation requirements. But one-on-one, a lot of what I do it revolves around either helping students figure out what they want to do, what makes sense of their path, or is pre right for them. But the biggest bulk of my work is actually application prep and getting them ready for the application and making sure we do those assessments to see, like, you know what, I don't think this is the right year for you to apply. These are the weaknesses. If you're okay going into the cycle with these, this is how we would move forward, and kind of coming up with those different strategies to mitigate the risk of not getting into their either medical school, PA school, PT school, whatever.
Absolutely. And how big is the pre-health population at Chapman?
Great question. Nobody knew until I started. Right now, I have about 500, and the number keeps growing every week. So they told me when I started here that we have anywhere between 40 and 900 students. No one really knows. So doing surveys, doing a lot of aggressive outreach, now having three peer advisors that are really doing great work to support students. We've been able to identify 500 students that are over 500 students that are on the pre-health path.
That's awesome. I love to see that. Okay, I have two questions that are not med, but they're pre-health, and so I just
Yeah.
want to ask them. For those that are interested in nursing, what is the best way to go about that degree? Would it be getting a degree, like a 4-year health sciences degree, and then going on to an accelerated program? Or do you not recommend Chapman for nursing? Like, what do you think for nursing students?
Well, if the goal is a BSN, then yeah, Chapman is not for you. Now, if the BSN looks great, but you're worried about timeline and how impacted those programs might be, or how long the wait list might be for some of these programs, the students that are interested in nursing at Chapman, well, first let's talk about major. I think health science is a great major for the pre-nursing path. But if students have other interests, like they want to do psychology, that is a wonderful major that is also relatively short, and you can fit in the nursing prereqs with a minor and go on and do good things. So that's totally fine. But so say we already figured out our major, we've hit the prereqs. The two pathways that are the most common for students at Chapman that want to go into nursing would be to do an accelerated BSN, which is an 18-month intensive of basically getting a second bachelor's degree, which opens you up to the most variety of options within nursing, from nurse practitioner to nurse anesthetist, nurse midwife, all those different pathways, which are all different master's degrees that usually require a BSN. The other alternative, if you know that you just kind of want to work in as a nurse, maybe do a nurse practitioner, but probably just want to work as a nurse, there's a thing called a direct entry or an entry level master's in nursing. which it'd be just a regular master's degree, but at the end of it, you get not just your RN, but you have an MSN. Is it MSN? Yeah, MSN. I was thinking MSW, but that's social work. Um, MSN, where you could work on any floor in a hospital. You could go into leadership, um, and you have the option with some programs to actually go and to become a nurse practitioner, which in California you could have your own private practice, but it would mainly be primary care work that you would do as a nurse practitioner. But not everybody wants to go that route. The limiting thing with the master's in nursing is that um, if they have the nurse practitioner piece, you're great, you're good to go. But if you wanted to say pivot and go a different route, um, you would need that BSN, and that's kind of the limiting factor.
I'll also share, I had a really close friend that came into Chapman thinking she wanted pre-PA, and so that is why she did not apply directly to a 4-year nursing degree, ended up at Chapman doing pre-PA, switched to pre-nursing, got an accelerated BSN after graduating with a health sciences degree, and is now working as an ICU nurse. So it's very doable to do it that way, but in full transparency, that is not the way to get the best bang for your buck because you're going to be paying for those additional years. So if that's an important factor, that's something to consider. Um, and then my other non-med question for the time being is my daughter is interested in physical therapy. Do you have a program for DPT? And is it like a 3+3 or something similar? Is it accelerated? What does that look like?
Oh, yeah. So Chapman has a PA program, a physical therapy program, and a speech pathology program, and a pharmacy program. Can't forget about the pharmacy program. The only one that I believe has some type of accelerated program would be the pharmacy, and that's the Apex. Unless it's a 2+3, where you do 2 years of undergrad and go straight to pharmacy school, you don't actually earn a bachelor's degree. Chapman, there is I think it's called a bridge program. We have bridges and linkages, a bridge program for students that do well in biology or health science to get at least a guaranteed interview at the PT program. But there is no accelerated 3+3 program at Chapman. Someone
Absolutely.
else asked that earlier because they said they did an AI prompt to find the 3+3 programs, and Chapman came up in that, and I was like, oh no, that, that's not
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, I think it comes up because we do have a lot of those like 4+1 type
Yeah.
integrated programs. And so I think we just get thrown into a lot of them. Um, what are some things pre-health students do on or around campus to maintain balance in their schedules?
That is a good question. I don't know that I have a answer ready to go. And I should ask my students a little bit more about what they're doing. But one thing I will say is that the university does a lot of wonderful events on campus. Uh, and one thing that kind of comes to mind was they did this little pumpkin patch situation a couple weeks ago, which was really cool. Um, it's such a very cool opportunity to be here at Chapman and see all the different events that they have on campus to support students, give them something to do, something to make them feel engaged and part of community and a place to kind of hang out with each other. Um, but as far as like what students do to decompress, I don't have an answer, unfortunately.
I mean, I'll speak to my friend's experience. I don't know how, but all of my friends ended up being pre-med while at Chapman. I was a psych major, so like Crean, I guess. But from my experience with them, I had friends that were super involved in Greek life, involved with athletics. I had one friend that was in the pre-law fraternity, even though she was pre-med. So you can really do anything that you want on campus, whatever club is something that is whatever club you're passionate about, whatever organization you're passionate about, get involved with those things because from my understanding, medical school wants to see that um, the well-rounded pieces of you. So get involved with the things you want to get involved with. I don't think there's one thing that's like the best thing. Can you double major as a pre-health student?
I believe so. I don't know. I'm still learning the majors and minors.
Mhm.
And so the things that are unique here to Chapman is that every student's required to have a secondary area of study. So for some of the sciences where the BS degree can be a little, um, I'll say intense, but really what I'm talking about is just like it's a lot of courses to get a BS degree. Uh, I don't even know how students do the minor, but they always every year they make it work. It just is wild to me. But yeah, I have a couple students that are doing um, double majors. What I'm seeing more is students are doing a major in the sciences and doing a minor. Like I have a creative writing, uh, actually creative writing major, health science minor. I have a biology major, dance minor. So things that kind of give them that very well-rounded, very diverse topics of classes and experiences while they're here at Chapman.
Absolutely. Do you feel like the pre-health process is really individualized? I know you said the lists are individualized, but in terms of internships that you're suggesting or those extracurriculars you might suggest for people, is that going to be more specific to each student? Is that more general advice?
Yeah, absolutely. And so a couple of examples. Uh, a lot of students that are interested in like skin and skincare. And so like they want to go down like the dermatology path, and it's just like, okay, well, like what can you do now to kind of get involved with those things? What organizations are you involved with? Is there anything that we can do about like teaching the importance of using sunblock on a day to day? Because most people don't, and doing some initiatives like this around um, proper, skin care and taking care of your skin, preventing skin cancer. Because you don't have to be part of anything official to make those impacts on campus. And if that student happened to be part of a sorority, of you can, if you have a philanthropy chair and you guys want to create this initiative and fundraise, get a bunch of little dollar sunblocks and kind of just hand them out on campus and kind of teach people about the importance of wearing sunblock, especially in Southern California where we get a lot of sun and you get a lot of sun exposure. I think that's a wonderful thing to do on campus. I've had students in the past. I actually lost the question and I'm just talking. Sorry. I had students in the past, I remember now, that had a very strong interest in gardening, and had a friend that was part of City Year, which is a kind of like a domestic Peace Corps. And the City Year was doing alternative spring break because we were in a low income area. So alternative spring break kept the students basically in school during spring break, so parents didn't have to worry about childcare during that 1 week. And her roommate asked her to come in and do um, just an event, not event, but like a little session on like how to create a little small herb garden. And they found that a lot of students there lived in apartments, so they had very small space. So she created, um, I forget what, like bottles, like 2 liters, 2 liter bottles, and kind of created small little herb gardens with students like that didn't, take up too much space. Um, And so after those conversations and meeting those students, they kind of talked about how where they were is in a food desert, didn't have a lot of access to like fresh produce or fresh veggies. And the student ended up um, creating a map of all the local um, not farm to table, farmers markets in the area, where to get like fresh produce farm to table in the area and how to access it through public transit. And kind of made this little map, gave it to the students, and talked about that experience. And every medical school this girl interviewed at, that's all they asked about. And it was all because she had this interest in gardening, this love for uh, teaching people how to garden. And it just blossomed naturally into her being able to be involved in her local community and teaching people about this further. So that's something that's very unique. And it's very individualized. It's not something I have every student go out and create maps for how to find fresh produce. But it was something that kind of evolved based on the student's interests and how she wanted to kind of show up in her community.
That's awesome. Um, so if a student is interested in becoming a CRNA, what is the best path to take to succeed in that?
CRNA, I believe that's the um, nurse anesthetist.
Hmm.
Then accelerated BSN to that master's degree program for CRNA.
Yep, love it. Um, Student is interested in cardiology perfusionists after undergrad. I don't know what that is. Is pre-health the right path for that?
I gotta look up what a perfusionist is. I
I
don't know if
know.
that's a specialist or it's within that. Might not be a physician, it might be a technician role.
Mm, you may be off the hook for medical school. That's
Yeah,
pretty nice.
let me just see here.
Well, you're looking
Yeah,
at
they don't go to
that.
medical school, so yeah, it'd be a different. But I would have to look into it more specifically and see what the actual prereqs would be for that degree. But they do need a bachelor's degree to go down that pathway.
And I'll also add, regardless of if it's pre-med or not, if that student is that student would still be considered pre-health. So they could still
Hmm.
utilize your
Yeah, absolutely.
services, but it's just not med.
Yeah. So it'd be a mix of, depending on the school they're in, Chapman has career advisors in each of the colleges. So it'd be working with me and collaborating with the career advisor to kind of find opportunities for that student and figure out how to get them to their end goal of a cardiovascular perfusionist.
Awesome. I'm also just going to mention that I'm seeing a lot of questions in here that are asking pretty specific numbers. As we mentioned earlier in this presentation, we don't have super specific numbers like how many students are in an average, how many pre-health students are in an average class. That's going to vary depending
Yeah.
on the class, the program. So, unfortunately, some of those questions we're not really going to be able to answer. So I just wanted to put
Yeah.
that out there. Um, what would you say your favorite part of the Keck Center or Chapman in general is?
Well, Keck Center specifically, I like the floor to ceiling whiteboards situation. Just seeing the creativity of the students and how they like work together collaboratively to solve their problems. But Chapman in general, I just think it's a very cool community and neighborhood to be able to just like walk around campus, go grab lunch on campus or off campus. Um, it's very endearing because I'm in a main corridor and my door has a vent so I can hear everything outside very clearly. And I'm always hearing students like, okay, I'll see you later. I'll miss you. Have fun in class. It's such a sweet environment uh to see these students, grow and develop together. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here at Chapman and really enjoying the time so far.
That's great. Are there so someone is asking about the 4+1 type programs that we have. I'll just kind of give background for those. Those are our integrated programs. So for some programs, I'm going to use Masters in Leadership Development because that is quite far from this. But essentially, a student would finish their bachelor's degree in 4 years while starting their master's and take that one extra year to complete their master's degree. So in 5 years, you will receive a bachelor's and a master's degree. Are there any integrated programs that you think would be beneficial for someone interested in applying to medical school? Like maybe this is how they're spending their gap year. Would you
Mhm.
recommend something like that?
Short answer is no, I wouldn't look at a master's degree as a stepping stone to medical school. But if you have goals and you have a vision for how things are going to play out, and if this integrated program aligns with the skill sets that you're looking to develop, then 100% you should do it. Assuming that we're not worried about other aspects of your student profile, like your grades are solid, you're performing well on these tests, and you have great experiences, yes, do it. But if you go and do an integrated program because you had no clinical experience or no shadowing experience and no community volunteering, that's not going to replace that. You still need to do those other aspects to round out your student profile.
Absolutely. I'd like to go into neuroscience in my undergraduate and pursue a healthcare related career. What can I actively do at Chapman and in my postgraduate time? What opportunities are there for neuroscience and students interested in neuroscience?
Well, neuroscience is a growing minor, and I know they're doing research in neuroscience. What research is, I couldn't actually expand upon, but I know there is research opportunities within neuroscience here for students to explore. The other pieces are I think the mentorship from the faculty is kind of the main focal point. If you know you're not entirely sure you want to go to medical school, but you want to see what your options are, or you think you want to go to medical school but you're open to being persuaded to a different path if it makes sense, like to go get a PhD in neuroscience, this is a great place to explore, have the people that can talk to you and show you what a career could look like if you don't go the clinical path. Um, and then also have the necessary resources be supported if you decide, yes, you know what, I explored that. It was really cool, but I really want to be in a hospital or a clinical setting.
Awesome. For a student interested in psychiatry, what would the best courses be to take, and how challenging would those be? I feel
For
like psychiatry, like the specialized classes, are probably once you get to medical school. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, you don't choose that till basically your fourth year of medical school. So it'd be the same path as everybody else. You gotta take all the core, biochemistry, physics, math, organic chemistry courses. Now, if you wanted to do psychology and then do those courses in a chemistry minor, totally fine. If you want to do the health science, it doesn't matter how you get there. We just got to take the core requirements and do well, and you can go to medical school and become a psychiatrist.
Absolutely. I can answer this next one. It's, can I apply to Chapman as pre-med or pre-health? Pre-med and pre-health are not majors. So you would apply to a major, whether that be biology, health sciences, psychology. I know someone that did English and then went to med school, so like
Hmm.
you could really do anything. But
Exploratory, yeah.
yeah, but you'll add in kind of that pre-health advising once you arrive on campus.
Hmm.
Um, okay. I'm seeing a lot of like people interested in specific specialties. Again, you're taking all of the same classes because you're all going to med school. So
Yeah,
regardless, it's the same prereqs. The
yeah,
specialization doesn't happen until you are in medical school. So
yeah,
can't really answer too much about those.
yeah. I think I saw a question they were asking about like how students perform in the cycle or like how Chapman students perform.
Yeah.
It's really an individualized thing. Whether you go to Chapman, whether you go to another school, it's how did you perform in those classes? That's ultimately what's going to be able to get us in the door in consideration for some of these professional school programs. It doesn't matter the institution as much as how well you did in the classroom, how well you did in the community, and how well you can showcase and communicate your readiness for committing your life to life of service as a physician.
Yeah. Something I always tell students when it comes to medical school is, as Randy mentioned early on in this presentation, there's 50,000 applicants for 22,000 spots or something like that. So it is highly competitive, and you could do everything right and it unfortunately still not be successful. And
Yeah.
so I say that because I want to reiterate that these questions are all amazing, but unfortunately, some are going to be things that are going to happen to each individual, and
Yeah.
it's not really something that we can prepare a student
It's yeah. And so on that, like it's also not the end of the road. It's very common to have to apply twice to medical school. Great candidates don't get in every year. So that is a normal part of the process, just pure statistical. Not everyone has a seat available.
Yeah. But with that being said, Chapman will prepare you the best that it can to get those seats. As Randy's talked about, we do have all these incredible resources, but because of the statistical odds of,
Considerations. Yeah.
yeah, just be aware that it can't be a guarantee as much as
Mhm.
we wish it could be.
Yeah.
Um, so someone's asking, and I have no idea, are there any partnerships with the new cancer center that's opening in Irvine, since we do have our Rinker campus over there? Anything like that?
I'm not aware, but it doesn't mean that there isn't. What I can say is I was just in a meeting with um, the PT school, PA school, and speech pathology and pharmacy program to start being more proactive about getting students, undergrad students, exposed and connected to current students in those programs if they're interested in, PT, PA, whatever have you. So we have things in the works in that regard for like mentorship. Um, and they're calling it an open house right now, but I think it's probably going to evolve in the name. But yeah, so I mean, I'm very excited about those programming that's going to be happening and things that I want to make sure our students are dialed into.
Awesome. Okay, already answered this. How beneficial is playing sports for in applying for medical school? That's just an additional extracurricular.
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, that's really what it comes down to. If it's something that you like, there's a lot of skill sets that we'll get out of playing sports, like communication, empathy, collaboration. Um, but if you don't play a sport, it doesn't mean you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah. This isn't a question, but kind of something I'm curious about. Do you happen to know the percentage of students that go pre-med or that go into medical school versus DO? So like MD versus DO
Oh,
for our students?
no, I don't know that number. And I think picking MD versus DO is a lot more based on the student and what their idea is. DO is much more holistic in their approach to care, and MD's adopted a lot of the DO practices, so it's kind of a little more difficult to kind of differentiate the two because that idea of patient-centered medicine is a DO philosophy. It's not an MD philosophy.
Mhm.
And so we're seeing the MDs really adapt. Um, with DO residencies, MDs can't apply to DO residencies, but DOs can apply to MD residencies. So it just comes down to like what the students value, what they want out of their training. Um, but yeah, there's no real difference end goal.
Awesome. And then there's a question here, depending on the major, is it more or less competitive? So depending on the health major, I don't know if they mean for undergraduate or like specialties.
I'll answer it in two different ways. Is it like there's a cap for how many bio majors they're going to accept or health science? No, there's no cap in that regard. Is it competitive in the sense of like how rigorous the curriculum is? That could be a consideration. Biology and health science are both going to have very heavy course loads, which can be difficult for some students to navigate. And so in that instance, uh, doing something like a psych major, assuming that you like it and will do well in psych, we'll say psych major, and doing the pre-health classes passively could be an alternative pathway to find more balance in a course plan. So it just depends.
Absolutely. Thank you. Um, talked about where our students are going. I think we have answered all of these questions. We can kind of hold off and see if any super last minute ones pop in. Again, thank you all so much for all these questions. We're trying to answer them as well as possible, but some of the information, some of the numbers are just a little unknown, so we can't
Yeah.
dive too deep into them. But I appreciate those questions. Are there any?
So I saw one of the questions and I went digging through the answer. So someone
Oh,
asked
good.
if a CNA license would help with competitiveness when applying to medical school. No, it wouldn't give you a leg up or anything. Um, it experience is experience. If that's where you want to get your experience, that's totally fine. But it wouldn't be like I'm definitely going to get into medical school.
That is a great one. Great question. And then I feel like we already talked about this. Which medical schools have most Chapman students been accepted to? I don't know that there's one.
I don't know, but I will say that UMass reached out, came to campus because of they came in October, and they said that they had a good amount of Chapman students apply and matriculate in, and they want to start coming by like in-person visits from Massachusetts. So that's the only like anecdotal example I have, but outside of that, I don't have a like I know our students end up at UC Irvine. I know our students end up at USC because I had a Chapman alum that I helped get into orthopedic specialty a year or two ago. Um, so I mean I know they're everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I know people that have gone to the University of Toledo,
Hmm.
TCU,
Hmm.
UCI, University of Hawaii. I know two people that went there. So
Yeah.
people are NYU, people are really spread out. So There's a lot of great schools out there for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that is all of our questions if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming by, spending time with us today. I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped you give some context to what you can experience and excuse me, expect at Chapman. And I hope to see your students or your families at the next open house or event that we have for welcoming new students.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.